Hey there, this is Iman, that Philly wholesaler chick, back with another exciting content-packed episode for Real Estate Wholesaling Explained.com, realestateWholesalingExplained.com, which is a blog all about real estate wholesaling, where you will learn the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, I swear. And I'm excited, as always, with every guest that I bring on here for a video interview with Kelly Payne, as you see here on the screen. Kelly Payne is from Tulsa, Oklahoma. And Kelly also is a member of our closed group, which is Free Real Estate Wholesaling Training for Newbies. It's a Facebook book. It's the #1, no BS, free training all about wholesaling. So all you have to do is do a search on Facebook for the group. Request to join, and we would be happy to have you. So with that, I'm going to now, before I jump into turning it over to Kelly, I just want to give you, a little background about what this whole video interview is going to be about. Today, we're going to talk about, buy and hold strategy. And Kelly and her husband, have kind of stumbled on to doing the whole buy and hold strategy. Is that correct, Kelly?
Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially what Kelly is going to be discussing with us is how to structure those types of deals, as a wholesaler. These are, aside from your traditional wholesale deals where you maybe just market to absentee owners, free and clear, no mortgage, no nothing, back taxes, stuff like that. But for example, maybe, they have a sizable mortgage balance. You can still do those kind of deals. You just have to, use this exit strategy or lease option or something like that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kelly. So Kelly, if you could pretty much, start us out with, how you and your husband, got started in, real estate investing.
I got involved in 2009. We were looking for something that was a little bit different. He had a corporate job, still does, but we wanted something a little bit different, and real estate fell into my lap. And actually, my introduction to real estate investing was wholesaling. Mm-hmm. My mom actually bought a course and gave it to me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. So that's how I got involved. I started marketing in 2010 and got my first few deals, and then
marketing to who, Kelly? You said you started marketing, so what type of seller were you marketing to?
I started marketing to probates, and that's who I focused on first. Mm-hmm. I also did evictions and also people that were going to be losing their house at the tax sale.
Okay.
So I did that in 2010, and then I took off the whole year of 2011 because we had our third baby, and I just wanted to enjoy it. And so I started marketing again in 2012.
Right.
And this time I focused, I just pretty much split it between probates and absentee owners. Mm-hmm. And that worked out well. Okay.
So you said absentee owners and probate, folks in probate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, with your absentee, were you marketing to, because for me, I market to not just absentee owners, but absentee owners who own their property free and clear. So were you just straight absentee owners, or?
Yeah, there was a thread in your group about that yesterday, and it's made me kind of rethink some things too. But at the time, my list was out-of-state owners with a certain amount of equity.
Okay.
And I also used the map feature on listsource.com. That's where I bought my list.
Okay.
So that I could kind of get the certain neighborhoods and areas that I wanted.
Mm-hmm. Now, are you marketing to property owners in your area? Are you targeting, kind of like in your own backyard, Kelly, or maybe?
We moved to Tulsa only 2 years ago. And remember, one full year of that, I was taking care of my baby and I didn't market. Right. So really Oklahoma City is my main market.
Okay.
And,
how far is that from you?
It's about an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Okay.
So I continued marketing to Oklahoma City when I started up again in 2012. And I've since added Tulsa as well. But, all of my deals from last year, I lived in Tulsa, but I was marketing to owners in Oklahoma City.
Okay. So this is not about marketing. So typically, what number of mailings, I guess, on average were you sending out to the folks that you were marketing to get, to get deals?
Yeah, I was shooting for between 500 and 700 a month.
Okay. This is letters, Kelly, or postcards?
Yeah, I used professional white letters all of last year.
Okay.
And sometimes it was around 500, sometimes it was 700, but I shot for that much a month. And I only got a new list once. All of those were follow-ups.
Oh, okay. So, just to back it up a little bit, you made mention of a professional white letter. Could you explain for those folks who may not know what you mean by that?
It's a typed letter. It doesn't have I didn't use letterhead, but it was a typed letter with my name and address and their name and address and just explaining that, we'd be interested in buying their property and the benefits of selling to us. And then I did hand sign it and it was hand addressed.
Okay.
With a first class stamp.
Right. Now, what would you say I don't know if you were tracking it, Kelly, but what would you say your response rate was?
Yeah, typically? I did track it because I wanted to be able to compare it to other things I had done. And I would depending on the mailing, it was anywhere from 5 to 8%.
Okay.
Response rate.
Right. Okay. All right. And so it's been working, I guess, pretty. Have you ever used the yellow letter that most, a lot of folks in this business, wholesalers, use to market to folks?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. And actually, when I started marketing in 2012 again, that's what I used. I sent my first mailing out to, I think it was maybe 200 was one list I had.
Right.
And I did the yellow letter and the response rate was incredible. 15%, I think is what I got with the yellow letter.
200 letters. Just out of 200 letters, right? Right.
Yeah. Right. So I got a lot of calls in a very short amount of time.
Right.
But all of them were tire kickers and I also writing it all by hand, I didn't have a lot of time because I have 3 small children.
Right.
So I switched over at that point.
Okay. Yeah. So the response rate is great. And like you said, a lot of times, which I think a lot of people, maybe just starting out, have this misconception that in using it, that somehow magically, deals are just going to come falling out of this, people are going to be raising their hands left and right, which they are, but they may be raising it for a number that is not where you need it to be. And,
right.
My experience with, yellow letter marketing it's great response rate. It's just, but then you have your conversion rate too. So that's what I noticed as well. When I tracked that, I had done a few yellow letters in 2010 when I started, and it was the same thing. A great response rate, but really low conversion rate. Right.
There was a thread about this too on that Facebook group, and everyone has a different experience.
Right.
Maybe just depending on your list and your personality.
Your market.
But for me, the professional letters worked better for me.
Right. Okay. All right. Awesome. And there was one other question I wanted to ask you. You had made mention of the professional white letter, and you did make mention of typically how many you mail at a time. Oh, I know what it was. You said that was just one list. And the rest of it was a follow-up, right? So how many times did you follow up with these folks that you were marketing to from that list?
Every month. I followed up. So what I did was I bought a list in January of 2012, and then I bought another list the next month.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I think I had about 500 leads. Half of them were absentee, about half were probate, and I just kept sending letters over and over.
Pretty much like our friend Sharon, who will continue to follow up until they say, please stop contacting me, correct?
Yeah, well, when I was researching, I knew I wanted to start back up again in January. Mm-hmm. I had to, pick my strategy and decide what I wanted to do. And I had been reading Sharon's blog all year that I took off. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to do that. And, so I kind of adopted that idea of I'm just going to keep mailing until they ask to be removed from the list, or they sell it to me, or they sell to someone else. And it worked out well for me.
Which is great, and I always hear great, wonderful things about follow-up. I myself, that's one of my goals for this year is to do a 100% better job, because I was doing 0% follow-up. And I think that, especially when, and I think for me, it's just because there wasn't, not to say that you or anybody else that does follow-up has a need for it. I just didn't have a need. You understand what I'm saying? I was doing deals where, and then I'm just, to be honest, probably was just poor at my organization skills where that was concerned were just, it was just overwhelming for me. So, and I hear nothing but good things about follow-up. So anyway, thank you for sharing it. Oh, and what I was going to say was I think especially starting out, for folks who may not have a sizable budget, that they feel like if I don't want to waste my money by following up with people. I need to get a deal done now. I need to, you know what I mean? So I think that folks fall into
and I had to think about that as well, because I've heard that it does take several times before your follow-ups will sell to you, but someone who's super motivated might only need that one letter. So when you really need a deal, it's really hard to know the balance between do I just send a new leads or follow up? I'm still trying to figure out the balance between those things. Right.
Thank you for that, Kelly. So, pretty much now, this whole buy and hold strategy, I know you said that this was, before our interview, I think you said you kind of stumbled upon the whole strategy pretty much, right? So could you share with us that?
Sure. Well, when I got involved in real estate investing, I just wanted to do wholesaling. And in fact, that's still what I'm focusing on. But rentals were they were part of our long-term plan. We wanted to be able to live off of those eventually, and use wholesaling to pay off debt, build savings, those sorts of things. And, but last year when I was marketing, I ended up getting 2 leads that they accepted owner financing. That they wouldn't accept my cash offer. They they accepted that option. And so it was just too good of a deal for us to pass up. So we ended up keeping them.
So just to interrupt for a quick second, Kelly, and for those who may be watching it who really don't understand the whole concept of owner financing, could you explain that a little bit?
Sure. Well, owner financing, the way I would explain it is the seller of the property becomes the bank. I didn't have to go to the bank to get the loan. They carry the note for me. So I make my monthly payments to the seller. I give a very small amount of money as a down payment. And then I make my payments to them.
And what's that? I mean, what was the down payment for, I guess, your first deal?
Yeah, for both of them, it was $2,000 down.
Right. And what was the balance of their mortgage?
On one, it was $90,000.
Okay.
On the other, it was $68,000 after the down payment.
Okay.
It kind of worked out well, though. I wasn't out of pocket $2,000 because we had to, at closing, they had to pay their portion of taxes for the year.
Mm-hmm.
So it worked out that I was really out of pocket about $1,000 for the down payment.
Okay. So how did you guys arrive at the $2,000 payment? Down payment, rather.
The down payment?
Mm-hmm.
I think I initially offered a little bit less, but they wanted, they wanted skin in the game is what they would call it. They wanted me to be invested in this deal so that they could be comforted knowing I'd make a payment. So that's kind of what they wanted. I got such great terms though that it was worth it to me to kind of bump that up a little bit to make them comfortable.
Okay. And what were the terms, Kelly?
Okay. On the first property, which, by the way, Iman, both these properties are here in Tulsa.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I don't know if you remember, but I said I was marketing to Oklahoma City last year.
Right.
So both these people got my letters about properties they own in Oklahoma City, and they just happened to say, well, I really want to sell this property in Tulsa. Mm-hmm. So just on accident, by coincidence, I have 2 properties now in Tulsa, and the first house, what it is, it's worth about $115. Mm-hmm. We paid $92 with $2,000 down, and I got 1% interest for 18 months.
Okay, now could you repeat that one more time?
Sure. It's worth $115,000.
Mm-hmm.
I negotiated her down to $92,000, but it's at $2,000 down with 1% interest for 18 months. This house I was willing to pay more for though because it was completely remodeled. Mm-hmm. I mean, there was nothing to do, and it already had a tenant in place renting at $11.50 a month.
Right. Wow. Okay.
Locked into, they'd been there for 3 years already.
Right.
So I was willing to pay quite a bit more for that because my husband still hasn't even been inside that house.
Wow. Wow.
We just signed paperwork and we haven't done anything else to it.
So what was, the down payment was $2,000 and what's the monthly payment?
I pay her $400 a month. Okay. But that's more than what 1% would be. Right. I offered to pay more per month just so she could have that. But we negotiated so that it's all going toward the principal anyway. Right. So when we need to refinance in 18 months, I'm supposed to pay her the full amount. Okay. We'll go and refinance at the bank. Right. The balance on that will be just sitting at 75%. Okay. Of what it's worth. Right. Okay. When I came up with an offer to her, I made sure that when that balloon note was due, I could go to the bank and have at least 75, if not 70%, equity in there and get a loan. Right. That's awesome. Because I knew that, it was a short-term deal. Right. So, I think that at the end of 18 months, we'll owe something like $80,000. So I could go get another loan for that. So this is awesome. So I just want to stop here. For those who are watching this, the whole purpose of this video is to share with you how to structure these kind of deals, because these types of deals can be wholesale to somebody like Kelly. So, you've done all the work. I mean, it's no different than, as I may have said at the outset of this interview, no different than if you were to just, you're marketing to absentee owners, which a lot of people do, and you make your money in the middle by, assigning that deal to your cash buyer. So, Kelly. Right. And I think I would have done that if rentals weren't part of our long-term plan. Right. I think I probably could have wholesaled it. Right. But, so when I was trying to figure out what to offer her, I don't know if you do this, but I usually make more than one type of offer. So I offered a cash offer, and that was just too low for her. Right. And so I suggested owner financing, and she said she'd be open to it. But after our conversation, this lady, she just really wanted out very quickly. That was her main thing. Right. So I just had to say, here's what we can do, and I can close on this in 3 weeks.
Right.
And she liked that. It was a number she was more comfortable with, and so she accepted it. Okay. But I think the two things I was trying to figure out when I made the owner finance offer was, will it cash flow? Mm-hmm. And will I have enough equity to refinance when I need to?
Right.
And I would think that would be what buy and hold investors are looking for as well.
Right.
When they're going to get this deal.
Right. So I have a question that now, you said you're making your payments directly to the seller, but I mean, are you using like an escrow company to kind of?
Yeah, we considered that. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if we should have done that. We did not do that this time. Mm-hmm. We did close, I got title insurance and I did all that, you know, but every month I deposit the amount of money into her bank account and I save all my checks or, you know, I have copies online and that sort of thing. Right. And maybe if it were going to be a longer note, I would consider it. I'm not sure. Maybe that was a mistake, but so far it's been fine and, we'll see.
Right. Okay. So what would you say? Now this seller, those two deals that you referenced, are they from the same seller or two different sellers?
No, two different sellers. Okay. So that was the first deal. Mm-hmm. And I closed on that in September. And then maybe a couple weeks later, I got another lead and it was, an elderly lady. Okay. She was living with her son on the other side of the country and really wanted to sell this house. She had a property manager who was not licensed. It was just this lady that told her she would do it. Right. And she put her two grandsons in this house and they hadn't been paying rent. They had trashed the house. She was just wanting out. Right. And so my cash offer was very low. The ARV was about 110, but I think I offered cash 52. Okay. And it's just too low. But from the first conversation, she said, I really want a monthly income. I don't need cash. Wow. Well, gosh, I mean, when someone says that, I mean, you don't even really need to make a cash offer. Because I wasn't sure exactly what it could rent for, I assumed it would only rent for about $750. That was being really conservative. So I knew that, I could not pay her very much a month and still make money or at least break even every month. So in the end, I told her, she accepted my offer of $70,000 for the house with $2,000 down payment and payments of $350 a month, but at 0% interest.
Oh, okay. For how long?
3 years.
For 3 years.
For 3 years. So everything is going toward the principal, and that's why I can do that. Right. And after 3 years, we will only owe about $56,000. Okay. On the property that's worth $110. Right. So, but this one I couldn't rent out right away. I had to put money into it, and that's why I needed it. I needed equity and I needed low payments. Right. So we rehabbed that this fall, and in fact our renters are about to move in 2 weeks. And and we're renting it for $950 a month. Right. Okay. So I was super conservative, and I'm really glad I was. Because we'll be cash flowing and do fine on this property. Right. That's great. So, awesome. Yeah, that one worked out really well, although I'm so tired of that house. Rehabbing it and everything.
You just want to be done with it. So, So, okay, typically, how would does your conversation go with folks when you're speaking with them by phone? You know, when you're making your, you know, I'm sure you gather all the information that you need about the property, that type of thing. If there's any debt that, you know, other than a mortgage, I'm saying, like, you know, outstanding, you know, property taxes, utility, that. So you make your cash offer.
I'll just talk about this house that we just finished rehabbing, the one we closed most recently. When she called, I just let her talk and explain everything to me, and she really, had this problem, and so that gave me a lot of information. She said she'd owned it a really, really long time, and it was paid off. She just mentioned that in the conversation, and she told me that everything was paid up, and so that told me what I needed to know about the financial end of things. And I asked her about the condition, but she didn't know because she lived so far away.
Right.
And I told her what I could do was go take a look at the house if she wouldn't mind. So she arranged for me to go over there, and it's just 3 minutes from my house.
Okay.
I might have done things differently if it was further away, but I just swung by, I took a look at it, and I took pictures.
Right.
A lot of pictures. And I uploaded them to Dropbox, and I sent a link to that folder to her and her son. And man, that really helped a lot because I knew I wasn't exaggerating the condition of the house. And so I said, this is what it looks like. I'm not sure what I can offer. Let me research what houses are selling for in the area. And then also let me do some calculations and figure out how much it's going to cost to fix this up.
Right.
So they just sort of sat on those pictures and what I said for about a day. And then I called them the next day and I said, here's what I think I could do. And they just weren't sure. I just gave them a cash offer. And I said, but if you would like more, and if you're interested in monthly income, like you said, I could offer you this.
Right.
And she was kind of confused by all the numbers thrown around. So what I did was I just typed it all up and I emailed it to her son, and then they spent the weekend looking it over.
Right.
And they countered a bit, but in the end, it was the same as my original offer.
Right. Wow.
And so they accepted it.
Wow. That's awesome, Kelly. That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was really excited. It kind of was like this isn't going to work out.
Right.
This is too good to be true.
Right.
2 owner-finance deals, but it did, and I was grateful.
So what would you say, what key things, do you want to keep in mind, I guess, when, for those who are watching this, when structuring these types of deals?
I would think that the 2 things I was really, really conservative and careful about were calculating what the cash flow would actually be. That mattered to me. I did not want to pay for this property every month.
Right.
And I wanted, how things happen. You're wrong about something. So I was conservative and I was careful.
Right.
And what I did was I calculated what I thought the rent would be. And like I said $750, which was super conservative.
Right.
But, I said $750. And then what I did after that was subtract at least $100 cash flow. I wanted myself, and I wanted, if I sold this deal, them to have at least $100 profit, at least.
Right.
And then I took out property taxes and what I thought property insurance would be. And I had an idea because I just closed on that first property already. So I used kind of that rough figure. And then I subtracted expenses, and I was very conservative again. I assumed 15% of the gross monthly rent for maintenance, vacancies, that sort of thing.
Right.
So I took the rent minus $100 minus property insurance minus property taxes minus 15% of the rent to set aside in reserves for maintenance and vacancies. And then whatever was left, I said, that's how much I can afford to pay the seller.
Right.
So I worked backwards into what I could offer based off of what was left in the cash flow.
Right. Which is pretty much like when you do, a traditional vanilla wholesale deal, you want to know what the ARV is.
Right.
Minus, repairs.
Your repairs and your fee.
Right. So, that's how you write it.
It is just like that.
Right.
I hadn't really thought about that. Yeah,
Right.
that's just like that.
Right.
And so what I did is I used a mortgage calculator online I input what I want my monthly payment to be, and then it tells me how much I can afford to purchase it for.
Right.
And I assumed only $2,000 down, so I could just type that into the field, 2,000 instead of 10% or whatever.
Yeah.
And then that told me 70,000 was what I could really the most afford.
So that mortgage calculator, is there a website that folks could,
I used to use the same one, and it was this weird, it wasn't really kind of, it was, I don't know if it was a MLS or something. It was very bizarre. It had a weird link, but, I found another one. It's some realtor website, but I used one where you can input every single field.
Wow.
And that way you can work backwards if you want to.
Right. That's great. Awesome. So anything else you'd like to add, Kelly?
The only other thing I was super concerned about when I made these deals was that when I needed to refinance it, I would have enough equity. And most of the bankers, I did some research, and I called, lenders to say, okay, for an investment property, what's the most you would lend for? What's the loan to value? And they said 75% was average. And one person said they would only lend up to 70% of the value of the home.
Right.
So I made sure that my monthly payments would also pay off enough equity so that when I had to refinance, or whoever bought the deal for me, when I didn't think I'd keep it when I made my offer, that they could afford it.
Right. So these are all key things, and that if you're wondering or have been wondering how to do that, how to structure deals like this as an exit strategy to then wholesale to somebody like Kelly, or somebody like herself. So this is how you do it. So I really appreciate you taking the time out, Kelly, and coming on and sharing with us. And definitely for those who are watching it, this definitely is a video interview that you probably are going to want to watch more than one time to really kind of understand, I guess, all the moving parts, pieces as to how to structure these kind of deals and still wholesale, because you don't have to chuck, like we were talking in the beginning, just because folks aren't open to necessarily a cash offer. There are other exit strategies that you can present to them and still and it still be a good deal. So again, and lastly, Kelly, you yourself have a blog. Am I correct? Did I see that?
Yes, I do. I mean, I do. I update it. Probably not as frequently as you do, but
it's been a minute since I've done mine, so don't feel bad.
It's flippingoklahoma.wordpress.com.
What's that again, Kelly?
It's flippingoklahoma.wordpress.com.
Okay, so that's flipping with a G on the end, not flipping. Okay,
not flipping.
flippingoklahoma.wordpress.com. So there you have it. You can, feel free to visit Kelly on her blog. And again, thank you, Kelly. And for those who are watching this video, be sure to subscribe. If you're watching it here on YouTube, so be sure to subscribe to the channel. Also, again, realestatewholesalingexplained.com. There's a ton of great video interviews just like this one here that are content filled. You're not going to find fluff. You know what I mean? My intention with all these interviews is to fill in the gaps for folks, because there's a lot of stuff out there where people are still left scratching their heads. So hopefully you found this video interview helpful, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.